what do you think has been the hardest part about your development journey, your game development journey?
To do interviews.
Hello, my friends. Welcome back to a candid conversation with. My name is Breezeby, and we are still in the midst of spooky month interviews. And today I have with me an OG in the indie horror scene, someone I am super, super excited to be talking to. So I'm going to let him introduce himself. Who are you and what do you do?
Hi, I am Vidas, um, which I suppose I need to say my name myself usually, since it's not English at all. I make video games, I make horror games. I've been self-taught in making this for about 10 years now. And I guess, mostly um, as a horror community, I just knows me mostly for Timore games and a bunch of other, because there's been a lot. But yeah,
Yeah. Okay. So you just said Timore. That's how it said?
Timore.
Okay.
You can
Timore.
pronounce it however you want. I don't
Okay.
mind. Everyone has their own version. Yeah.
Yeah, so that actually is where I know you from. So funny enough, you, like I said, you're an OG. You have been making horror games for how long? Like a decade.
Since 2014, let's say. I guess I started in 2013 to learn, but released the first game in 2014. Yeah. So
And the first one you made was Timore, like you said,
yeah,
and
yeah.
then the subsequent ones after that. Yeah, so I knew who you were, and I'm sure a lot of people knew who you were because that was like kind of back in the time of like Markiplier's peak, right? And a lot of people were watching his horror game videos, and I remember I was one of those people. And that was one of the ones I saw. And he did, I think, a whole series. I think he ended up playing all of them. I don't know if you
No
know if
one
he
can
played
play
all
all of
of
them.
them.
There's too many.
Yeah. Yeah. So you have been in the industry a very long time, and I'm curious, like, what got you into horror in the first place? Did you grow up with horror games, or were you just like, this is where I fit?
Well, as you just said, mentioning Markiplier, the thing that I guess the original answer to that is that I got bored of playing games, so I made my own. Like I wanted to learn,
Yeah.
which is not to blame video games in general, but I guess I didn't have too many of different games at the time, and I completed maybe Resident Evil 4 maybe like 10 times in a row, and I thought, well, maybe I should try and see if it's possible to make games. I was not in the horror scene at all. I was afraid of all the horror movies, games, anything in horror. I had nightmares and sleepless nights after watching The Ring. And I couldn't watch any gameplay videos. It was too scary.
Oh my gosh.
Um, so it wasn't anything that I was used to.
And then
But I
you,
started watching PewDiePie,
yes.
which was, I guess, my introduction to horror games and the appeal of seeing others scared and from jump scares and such, which is probably not very positive on my end to enjoy that.
There's something there.
Um,
There's something, something deep within you.
yeah, I started watching PewDiePie and not long after Markiplier, and those are the two that I guess I've watched the most on YouTube. That brought a lot of horror games to my attention for inspiration or for what people are looking for, what's interesting to me. And I didn't, as I suppose a lot of people, a lot of developers have these like ideas for horror, and they've played Silent Hill when it came out, and I had no idea. I haven't played Silent Hill games. I haven't played. I guess Resident Evil 4 was like the one game that I kind of started with, and it was scary at first, and then it turned to action more, so it wasn't as the most scary thing. So I could manage that. But I discovered Silent Hill later, and yeah, just went through all history of horror games, whether it's YouTube videos or played myself, and um, yeah, YouTube helped a lot.
Yeah, I think that was for a lot of people. I know the indie horror scene in particular really blew up, like you said, because of people like PewDiePie, Markiplier, like those Let's Plays almost gave people like a barrier. Like I was also not a horror person at first, and I really loved watching other people play them because I was like, it was like that 1 degree of removal where I wasn't the one experiencing it directly, so it was like way easier to be able to watch
Yeah,
somebody else. I totally get that.
it's like you're not in the danger. It might be scary, but it's not as scary.
So that's interesting that you had already watched Markiplier. So when you came out with Timore, and he played it, did you know this was gonna happen? Were you just like completely blown away? Like, I want to know. That's very
Yeah,
interesting to me.
that was crazy. I couldn't believe it. It was like I started making games because of, let's say, PewDiePie and Markiplier from YouTube side, and then they decided to play my games, and I think Markiplier played the first 4 out of 8 or so.
Mm-hmm.
I lost count myself. Let's be honest. And then he played other games, the Theater Unrest, a few years later. He checked out a couple other that's not horror related, but yeah, it was like it wasn't even like that. Those guys played one game and that's it, and because they kept on playing over the years, just randomly picking them, I guess.
Yeah.
So that was really cool.
And you have made how many games did you tell me? 40?
I think almost 40. I have
That's
the whole list on my itch.io account. You can count. I think it's like 38 or 9 now.
that's crazy. Do you I mean, to make that many games just in general is a lot, but like you have remained pretty true to the horror genre for like a very long time. Like you typically see people either I don't know if it's like burnout or if they run out of like the creative energy, but like to have been making games for this long in this genre is pretty wild and pretty impressive. Do you ever start to feel yourself get like creative block and be like, "Oh, I've done this before," or like, I don't know what else I can do.
Um, sure. I think people would expect for me or someone who's doing similar things to change career or do something slightly different. Would be maybe more of from the side of real life issues, financials, and all that. A lot of developers get publishers if they can, and that's uh, I guess that may change the path that they're on, or um, I guess there can be many situations, but I didn't. I guess I just stayed on myself to do things that I want to do and make the best of it. Um, and I went back and forth from, like, I started with horror games and I tried other games, and then they were not as successful. And I was like, oh, it doesn't have Timore in its title, so I guess I'll go back to Timore.
Yeah.
But then I still would make games that are not horror or just different titles, new titles. Although I really like making sequels, and I guess some people think maybe it's like sometimes it's enough, but I think there's always new things to discover and new things to create. And you mentioned the burnout, so I think you can take a break and do something else, which is, I guess, not entirely something else. If you're still making horror games and then you have something else on the line and it's another horror game, but it could be different. You can change a lot. You can do, suppose, as a developer, you can just change camera perspectives. You can do different styles, and I think it really just um, opens new possibilities where maybe you were more restricted with one game, and then you can try and explore different routes with another game. um, yeah, so burnouts, I guess, is a bad thing, but people run into those.
Yeah.
Um, I guess I have ways to solve that, to the point where I start telling people it's not real, and then they don't talk to me anymore because I'm just being mean.
Uh-huh.
But I suppose it's if you're really passionate about what you're doing, what you want to do, you just take a 5 minute break to really think what you're doing and why you're doing this. What do you want to make? What have you made already, and how people enjoy that? How much they like them? What do they want to see? I think if you just, there's a weird technique. I guess just get bored
Mhm.
and you'll get creative.
Yeah.
Um, which is, I guess I'm using that with my games as well, with the atmosphere being silent and nothing's happening, and then people start to imagine their own nightmares in there, and that nothing's happening, but they're scared. But that just works with burnout, I think. It's just get bored, do nothing, and think what are you doing here? Don't get distracted with, I don't know, procrastinate social media or anything else. And if you really just think about it, I think you'd get back on track pretty fast. But I guess there's a mistake if people get distracted instead of trying to get their thoughts together.
Yeah.
I'm getting way too psychological now, but I guess that's my job.
No, I think that's like a good point to make, and that is probably I think a testament to the fact that you've been making games for so long and putting out so many games. Like the fact that you have sort of this, I'm gonna call it like a very, maybe a Zen approach to it, of like, you know, I'm not going to chase this in the way that, like, I'm just going to let myself, like you said, if I'm bored, I'm going to be creative. So, like, I'm not just going to try to, like, force this in a way that whatever I'm focusing on, like, I'm going to stress myself out about it. And I think that
I think that's
difficult.
another thing that I do differently.
Yeah.
That I don't try to get inspired by, let's say, movies or other video games or books or anything. Maybe that's just my thing, that if I even look at the classics of Silent Hill, let's say, and I see something really cool, and later I found out that that was taken from, like, as inspiration from some other movie, other media, it kind of destroys the whole moment for me, because I just see it. Oh, they just stole it.
Interesting.
Which is not, I guess, the mainstream opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But and people can get inspired. I have no problem with anything. It's just I really like when things are unique and when I can come up with something, and it's just me sitting here thinking of things and coming up with things, and it's not like after watching a movie and I just end up copying it.
Yeah. That was actually one of my questions, was like, what sort of things inspire you to make what you make? But it sounds like what you're doing is really, you know, trying to make something unique every single time.
Well, I do enjoy other media, and especially this year I made an Easter horror game,
Yes.
which is really kind of, just connecting with the time, with the celebration, and just making a horror game for that occasion.
Mm-hmm.
Which you could call it that's like inspiration from that for me to make a game, and but I think it went well, and yeah, I think that just can be many approaches to horror.
Yeah.
But mostly I just try to stay on whatever I like to do, and people seem to enjoy it. So
Oh, so you said you weren't really into horror back in the day, and then you got into it. What is something that scares you the most? Like if a game has this, you're like very uncomfortable.
I think I always find very disturbing the Japanese horror stuff. Maybe
Yeah.
it's more unusual, even though I'm not from America, I'm from Europe. So um, maybe I have a different understanding um, as well. But just that kind of, maybe that was the movie The Ring that really like messed me up.
Oh yeah.
But still, just watching some sort of Japanese culture that's tied with horror, whether it's music, whether it's movies, or just other media, somehow that kind of gives me more creepy vibes, let's say.
So there's
I don't know
nothing.
anything that's like something very particular.
Yeah,
I
like
guess
you're not
I
super afraid of like spiders or something, you know, like it's not something specific like that.
no, yeah, that's why I guess I don't make games about some sort of killers or beasts. I guess
Yeah.
I have made, but something about those, but it's not like my main thing. So maybe mostly I enjoy, or I'm scared or find scary, I guess. Supernatural stuff,
Mm-hmm.
something that's some sort of a ghost, some sort of um, psychology, mental thing, um, which I guess it comes from Silent Hill 2 as well.
Mm-hmm.
Something that makes you think, I guess, and then you end up thinking about it, and maybe you get depressed in a way, and then I think that's way much scarier than, I guess, just a killer or like slash, or to me personally.
Yeah. No, that makes complete sense. And it makes sense that you would have, really enjoyed stuff like The Ring and Silent Hill if that is like your type of horror. I think that's my type of horror too. And I think that's why the times that I've played your games. So, um, I used to watch your game. Obviously, I said I used to watch other people play your games back in the day. But I think the first game of yours that I actually got a chance to play, and I'm not sure, I don't think I was playtesting this one. I didn't realize you had done, and you can correct my pronunciation because I don't think I ever learned how to say it. Arcade Arcade Letra?
Arcade Letra, yeah.
Thank you. Yes. Okay. So that one I think was the first one of that collection I played and streamed. Um, and I was so unnerved the whole time. And I remember it being very genuinely scary. And I'm just curious, like, how have you kind of, obviously that game is very different from Timore, right? Like that was, a good 8-ish, 9 years ago that you made that to today. And I kind of want to know like how you've changed your style over time and how you have really increased the creepiness, the scariness of the things that you're making.
I think over the time just making many games, um, I think I can see how the players are gonna react or like what they're gonna do mostly. Like I can guess that. I think pretty well these days. So like as an example, my most recent ones are Sorrow Asylum and then the sequel, Sorrow Asylum 2. Um, I thought like I guess maybe the first example or the first example that like comes to my mind where it really worked was Dia, that short free indie horror game on itch.io. That really started with nothing. You just get dropped into the city and nothing happens. Go discover, go find things, but it's already like there's like a city in the middle of nowhere,
Mm-hmm.
but also there's no answers. Why is that? And I think that approach to just start a game with nothing, you're just there, go explore. Um, I think that that's a good approach usually to just let people find things for themselves. Um, Even though with most horror games or the ones that I make, it's linear experience, so it's not really like they're like open world exploration, but still like it's not let's say 5 minutes of cutscenes in the beginning or something like that to like show the characters or anything. So I guess I like that from then, and I kind of do that with some games these days. Just start with kind of nothing. It brings zero expectations. You can just get right into it and find for yourself. And then with these Sorrow Asylum games, it's like a looping horror game. So you just walk through the same environment many times. And for the first 5 or so quote unquote loops, it's almost like, at least in the first 3, it's nothing happens really, and then it starts happening, but it's really subtle, and there's like a voice line of someone speaking.
Wrong day.
Um,
Today is
and
a
just
good
getting
day.
people into this
You're on the
almost
wrong
bored
day.
state when they just
Today is
start to
not
imagine
your
their own
day.
scary things or what's
You're
going to
on the
happen,
wrong
and
day.
with subtle sounds or just small story details, people start to imagine things. And I think that's the moment where it can work as less is more. Um, and then another thing, I guess, this is like the subtle, slow, and empty kind of horror is what I like to just let people explore, let people just let their imagination run. And then the other side for me is that I don't like if the game is like that the whole game through, which is like it would end up being like a walking simulator. Sure, there's a story, or like if it's interesting, sure, but if nothing happens, nothing like chases you, nothing like pops into your screen for whatever reason, um, I think it's a bit empty for my taste. So um, I bring in those the worst jump scares possible. I'm trying to put them tied up with some meaning, or like there's a chase scene, which is always good for horror. It's not like it's better than just me popping a jump scare for no reason, and
Yeah.
people just get upset. Well, that was cheap.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
So I think I over the years I learned how to kind of build the game from the start to make it interesting for people, and then I can kind of do whatever I want, bring in the scares or the story, and a lot of the times what really works is the emotional sadness of the story. That's just something really depressing. People think about it, people can relate to it. And it's always very interesting to hear people's thoughts and interpretations, and people have so many interpretations that I didn't intend, but they connect some dots, and it just ends up being something that could be like the meaning of the game could be something completely different.
Yeah, which
Um,
I think a lot of people, I think that is a underrated aspect of games these days. That and you speak like you've been making them a long time and watching people play them a long time, right? To understand that fact, so that makes a lot of sense.
well, I'm not some sort of expert. I just try to analyze as much as possible, and probably more too much for my own good. But
yeah.
but I think in the end it ends up being better in making a game.
Yeah.
I'd rather get like really sad about something and then understand where this comes from. How can I put this into the game? How can this work for other people when they just play a video game? It's not like their real life, but maybe they can like feel sorry for some character in the game.
What has been your favorite thing that you've ever made?
I really liked making like the 2 FPS games that I made, like way more than my horror stuff, I think,
Really?
which is kind of backwards, but I really liked making. That was a game that I worked for maybe 2.5 years. That
Which
was
one was
just
this?
was a dream for Aaron.
Okay.
It was this surreal roguelike that you kind of go through levels, collect upgrades. There's so many monsters, and it's one of the older ones. And I worked on it so much, and it was so much fun, and it probably wasn't worth it really. But I learned so much about animation, about modeling, about coding, because that had maybe 50 different enemies or something, like 3D models and animated and everything. So I really liked making that. I do enjoy making my Timore games.
Mm-hmm.
The Timore redo, the big one from last year. I worked around a year on that. Because I really I think that with the inspiration from, let's say, Silent Hill 2, or kind of with that idea to go and make my own thing, that ended up being very fulfilling, I say, for me. And I'm really glad to see that people really liked it. I had that question on my Discord server, just asking what's their favorite game, like what I made, like what's just to ask opinions, because there's obviously people who are there because of my games. And I thought people would just say something older, Theater and Rest, let's say, or the DreadX collection games. And most answers were Timore redo, which then I thought that yeah, it was worth it. It's worth like doing just what you want to do, really. And yeah, I guess my answer is that I enjoyed making the FPS games, which I made another FPS this year, Planeta 55. It has a lot of Lithuanian names, but it's very surreal and very sci-fi. And I think I got a lot of new what do you call it? Like I got the face animations to work, let's say, for the voice actors. So it's like technical stuff, but it's not really horror. But those kind of projects are the ones that I like the most for some reason. Maybe it's more mechanics based, so it's more fun to play, not just jump scaring myself while testing.
Yeah. I remember when I talked to Matt Reeves about this time last year. We had a conversation about what happens when you're a horror game, dev, and you go to play test your game, and the game either behaves in the way you're expecting or behaves in a way you're not expecting, and like you have to experience that again and again.
Yeah.
Because when I knew like where it was, it wasn't an issue. But
Yeah.
now I'm entering into unknown territory where I don't know how the programming is going to work out, if it's going to work properly, if it's going to show up in the wrong spot. And now I just have to go into my own game, and this thing that I created and have given life is going to try and kill me, you know?
And he had mentioned a couple different times of like, you know, instances where he just didn't expect like the monster to be there or whatever. Like, do you have a lot of those moments where you're like, like why why is this happening?
Yes, especially with making Sorrow Asylum,
Yeah.
which was this summer. I even tweeted a bunch how much I got jump scared, and like that stuff is not even supposed to be in the game, or I just left some guy stand in the corridor and I forgot about it.
Yeah.
Or some like sound effects worked differently than I thought, and then it was way creepier and then way scarier, and I was just like, yeah, I'm leaving this in. I didn't intend this, but I'm leaving this in.
Yeah.
This is great.
Happy little
But
accidents.
yeah, but for sure you have to go through a lot of this jump scare pain or psychological whatever it is in the game, which is not really fun. But when it works, at least you're satisfied that the players should get scared as well. So,
Yeah.
job well done.
Yeah. Exactly. Do you go on to like live streams and stuff and watch a lot of people like play your stuff live, or is it one of those things where too much of that might make you like overthink something that you've made or released?
Yeah, I go to YouTube videos, live streams, especially when people play my games. If you play my game and you want me there, you just always feel free to tag me on Twitter, and I think if I'm free, I'll come join and watch and join in the chat. I like to do those things, and just see people's reactions or talk to them about their interpretations. So yeah, I like engaging in the player's experience, let's say. But I don't think I get like bad ideas or I don't know. It doesn't affect me in a bad way, I guess. I think it used to when I released the first game. I was really worried about such small things like some sound being a bit awkward or something, and I would watch videos of someone just playing with 0 views, like no, I don't know. It's like not a big deal. But there was like a weird sound, I thought, and then they just went through that section. They didn't even like pay attention, but I was like so almost shaking. What are they gonna think? Is this bad? Is this cringe? But I think since then I really grew up, let's say.
Yeah.
And now it's just if people have feedback, which is either good or bad, I'm always willing to listen. Whether it can be as harsh as possible, I'll take it. Just either it's good, either it's good or bad. It's fine. I don't think it affects me, and that's I think it really helps me improve. Which, yeah, I don't know if other developers, let's say, who start to make video games, they maybe it's hard to handle the feedback, let's say, sometimes, and then having this experience is a lot easier, especially how much quote unquote hate I got for my jump scares back in the day, and that's fine. And I like the games that I was making, and I still like them, and I like what I do. And if someone brings me some sort of feedback that I agree with, it's only the option for me that I can improve in the future. Like that's the best route, then, in my opinion.
Yeah. You seem pretty connected to your community. You said you have a Discord. I know you're on social media. You're at least on Twitter or X or whatever it's called these days. I don't know. But
yeah, I'm on everything possible, I guess, just for people to use whatever they prefer, I suppose, if they want to connect or talk or just anything really.
I feel like that seems to be something that a lot of maybe not a lot, but I think it is pretty critical to be able to take that criticism and to be able to connect with your community and ask, like, you know, what did you think of this? Where can I improve, whatever, and adjust your style accordingly. And the fact that you don't take it to heart so much anymore is probably better for your mental health. I'm sure in the beginning it got difficult, right?
Yeah. At the beginning it was maybe harder to see that stuff. Um, I think I didn't mind people saying that they don't like, or because of the jump scares, the game is trash, it's garbage, no one should play it. I was kind of like, fine, like maybe that's not your thing, or people like to play like proper horror games, like Silent Hill games or something bigger. And it's just some of my games were just jump scare festivals, basically. So I understand that if it doesn't appeal to some people, that's fine. Like I think that wasn't a big deal. The one thing I guess I didn't like is when people would say no effort.
Mm,
And I'm the only person who knows how many months I spend on this. And even
yeah.
if it's bad, it's not like I made this in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But now it's very, very, I don't know. It's really easy for me, I suppose. Like if someone says something negative and it's actual good feedback, like it could improve, like I'm just thank you. Well, I'll improve on this. Uh, who cares about my feelings? Like I don't care. Like it's fine.
Yeah.
Um, but then again, I think I have to agree with that myself, because then following everyone's advice would be like just me jumping from one thing to another and not knowing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Um,
So staying true to yourself and also being able to like listen to feedback in a way that is so that everybody can like, well, not everyone's going to enjoy everything, but so that you can continue to improve,
yeah.
like you said.
Oh, I just wanted to add that I think my games rarely break. They have done in the past, but I think now I gotten like the hang of it mostly. So the feedback is not really usually about something breaking or something not working. So if there was feedback from the players saying that the game is not working properly, then maybe it would affect me more than, oh, I have to fix this, and then it's not working again, and then I have to fix it again. But I think I just don't have this kind of feedback, and that just helps me focus on I guess the art side of the game, or the atmosphere or story or anything else.
Yeah.
And people just give feedback on that, instead of like the technical stuff.
Are there any games that you're playing right now or any devs that you're kind of watching or enjoying their content?
Yeah, a lot probably. It's hard to keep track of everything. Um, I really liked Porn. It was like, was it this year or last year?
Which one was it?
Maybe this. Scorn.
Scorn. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
It was kind of divisive, I thought, in the community, because it was maybe too hard. But then I really enjoyed that, and I thought that the artistic approach and just the visuals and sound, it was really, really good, and I really liked that one. I guess I talk with quite a bit of indie developers just from time to time, or I just go out of my way to just go on itch.io or Steam to find games to play, which I thought not many horror developers actually do that, um, but I try to go and just find horror games that are just good out there. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe there's something new that someone discovered that works in horror. Maybe I can get inspired, or maybe I just can't see what others are making. Um, which is, maybe I don't even have to be inspired. Maybe I could see something that I'm not good enough compared to this person, and I could improve some sort of aspect of my games. Or I can just play someone's game and say good job and try to promote their game a little bit on social media if I really liked it. And I think if people, developers or just players or content creators, just share and spread the word, it's good for everyone, really.
Yeah. What do you think has been the hardest part about your development journey, your game development journey?
To do interviews.
Is this really painful for you?
No, it's not actually, but this is probably the first one.
Really? Oh my God, I'm honored. I'm actually honored.
I think most things are just you sit down and you learn and try to learn until you get it.
Yeah.
Make your game until it's good enough for you. Of course, there's things that are like there could be bugs. Just coding is a bit difficult. I think coding is a bit off-putting for people to get into game dev, and I think it's really good to have programming basics from school or something. I think that's generally a good thing to have for developers, to just to know how to code basic stuff. Nothing crazy.
Yeah. Did
And
you
then at least you can code like a jump scare or something in your game, and maybe sometimes that's good enough.
Right. Did you take you said you're self-taught, so like did you go to school for any of this, or you just literally like booted up
I went to
whatever?
university, then I quit. Then I went to college, and I finished that. I did learn the programming in college, so I think that was a good part that I suppose I started learning myself, but then really learned proper programming in college. Yeah, and the rest, the modeling, animation, texture work, engine work, music, sound, just myself, I suppose. Which I guess I learned to play guitar from a teacher as well. So
That's awesome. So you've kind of
Um,
incorporated a whole bunch of stuff into what you can create today.
yeah, I guess I'm turning this into some sort of motivational speak now. But if someone has some sort of talent and they want to make games or anything else, or videos or streams, if you have some sort of skill, talent, or anything, you just see if you can incorporate it into what you're doing. What I did with the music, and I think it just brings a lot of uniqueness and a lot of quality from some sort of other side that people maybe are not used to. And for example, I guess the Sorrow Asylum games, and then I guess most games that I make, but then these ones is where people open a horror game and they expect creepy atmosphere, and there's, how do I describe it? Almost catchy metal with weird sounds, music playing,
Yeah.
and people. This is like my biggest flex, I think, and just for me, that people who don't listen to metal, let's say, or just loud music, they start headbanging and they start jamming out in that menu.
That is a compliment. That's a flex for sure. If a game has good music, A+.
They didn't even start playing the game yet.
Yeah, is there a particular game I should boot up to give an example of this?
Yeah, Sorrow Asylum 1 and 2.
Okay.
Perfect examples. Timore redo.
Okay.
Back in the day, I remember with Scruncho, we made Dia, and we made a song together. I played guitar, she played flute, and I think she did a bit of vocals from the melody. And we made this calm, just nice song for the menu, basically, for the game. Some people really liked just listening. Someone started rapping over it. It was like a out of nowhere experience of people just getting into the music when you're supposed to play a horror game, like when making a video, let's say. And
So what I'm
that's
hearing
where-
is you got to release an album, like a full, just all of your music, the Vidas Gaming album. It's coming soon.
Yeah, I mean, I put my music on Spotify and all those platforms.
Oh,
It's there
shit.
to listen if you want to.
I didn't know that. That's actually awesome.
So yeah, I just really like playing guitar, making music. And I think it adds a lot to the games that I make.
Yeah. Is there anything else? Like, where can people find you? Like, what do you want to promote?
Go on Steam, buy my games. I guess I'm on most social media just to being there if people want to connect. So Discord, I have a Discord server, Twitter, X, Instagram, TikTok. And it's usually my name, which people cannot pronounce or spell probably. So find Vidas or Mr. Timore. If you want to support your developers, just go and buy their games and then just spread the word. I think that's just the best way to do it. Yeah, and it also wouldn't hurt if you would tell like Markiplier to play them.
You heard it here first. Everyone go tweet at Markiplier to play all of Vidas' games right now, and we'll just blow it up.
Yeah, and blame me for spamming him.
Yeah. You can direct all of your complaints to vidas@gmail.com.
Yeah.
We'll make you an email box that you can just like disregard all the emails you're gonna get for this. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for doing this interview. I really appreciate it. I am literally honored to have been the first one, so I'm gonna gloat about that a little bit. And
yeah, feel free.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you so much. And I will see y'all in the next one. Goodbye.